The blank game weeks and double game weeks are starting to get closer for fantasy Premier League managers. While in this video we're only looking ahead to game week 23, it's still something that we need to start thinking about as soon as possible. In this video I'm going to take a look at all the double game week news that we have up to now, including injury updates, transfer updates and African Cup of Nations updates, and that's all coming up next. So we're going to kick straight off with today's video and take a look at blank and double game weeks. As always, all the information I've got here on screen is taken from Ben Krellin. You can follow him at Ben Krellin. I'll link his Twitter account in the description below. But because the League Cup final's now been confirmed, we know that Man United are going to play Southampton. And because Man City have gone through to the 5th round of the FA Cup, we know for sure that in game week 26, Man United, Man City, Arsenal and Southampton are all going to blank. So any players you own from those teams will not play in game week 26. So if you're like me, I've actually got 5 players from Arsenal and Man United. I've got Ibra, Mkhitaryan, Jones, Giroud and Sanchez. So that's going to be a real pain for me. Obviously, you can bench three outfield players. So I can bench 3 of them. That's still going to leave me with 2 that definitely aren't going to play, which won't let me field 11 players. So in the next couple of weeks, I've really got to think about getting those players out. Now, there's also going to be blanks in game week 28 for any Premier League teams that get through to the 6th round of the FA Cup. Obviously, we don't know who that is yet that's got through. But they'll obviously blank, and their opponent in game week 28 will also blank. So on the screen, I've taken one of Ben's tweets that's got probabilities. I think these are based on the odds for a team going through. So Everton, West Brom, Bournemouth and West Ham all won't blank, so we're safe with them. But if you've got their players, then it's worth holding on to. The rest of them could still blank. We'll have to wait for the draw, which I think is on Monday, which might give us a bit more of an indication of teams that definitely are or aren't going to blank. Like I said, keep an eye on Ben's Twitter. He'll be able to help you out with that. But if teams like Man United and Arsenal are going to blank twice in 3 game weeks, so 26 and 28, we really could see players like Ibra and Sanchez getting sold in droves. Sanchez is currently owned by 37% of all managers, and Ibra is owned by 43%. So it might be okay to bench them for 1 week, but you're not going to want to bench them for 2. Now, I've had a look at the fixtures in game week 26, and Chelsea, for example, have Swansea that week. So depending on if they're going to blank later on, you could do Ibra to Costa, maybe even Sanchez to Hazard if you don't own Hazard. And Spurs also have Stoke, so that's another good fixture in that week. So you might want to swap in some Spurs players that you don't already have. The problem is both Chelsea and Spurs went through to the next round today, so they will definitely be in the draw. And if they win their next game in the 5th round of the FA Cup, they'll also blank in game week 28. So it's really going to be tough. My advice would be to keep hold of your transfers as long as possible. If you can have 2 transfers going into the next couple of weeks, that's really going to help you manage this. You probably don't want to be using your wild card. And obviously you'll have double game weeks to come later on. But for now, it's the blanks that we need to manoeuvre, and keeping an eye on this is really going to help you. So since the last game, we've actually had some African Cup of Nations news. Both Algeria and the Ivory Coast have both been knocked out, which means Mahrez, Slimani, Zaha and Bailly are all coming back. The last 2 are probably the more interesting ones. So Mahrez and Slimani, obviously playing for Leicester, aren't doing very well. I don't think we're going to give them a midfield or striker spot right now. Apparently there's been a transfer offer to Leicester for Slimani. Don't know if he'll go in January, but either way, he's probably not one to be putting in our teams right now. But the Bailly and the Zaha news is much more interesting. So Bailly's obviously going to come back to Man United. He's a centre-back. That now means that Man United have got 4 fit centre-backs, Bailly, Jones, Rojo and Smalling. I'd assume that Bailly's going to be first choice there. Maybe not straight away as he's just coming back, but in the long term, he's going to be the first name on the team sheet, I think, every week. It actually looks now, Smalling was the main man last year, but right now it looks like he might even be the last on the pecking order, so I'd almost put him at 4th spot. Jones is probably 2nd spot, but now with all these centre-backs, he does become a risk. I own him myself. I think I'm going to start to look to get rid. I think he'll be okay for the whole match, which is up next, but with a blank in game week 26, potential rotation, he's probably one to start looking at getting rid of. And then Zaha, Crystal Palace can't buy a win right now. Allardyce is having real trouble. They look quite good, at least for scoring goals, maybe not keeping clean sheets, but they look good for scoring goals when Zaha was playing before. I don't think he's played much for the Ivory Coast, so hopefully when he comes back, he'll provide that spark for them. They actually have pretty good fixtures, so they've got Bournemouth away next, Sunderland at home, Stoke away, and then Bournemouth at home. Middlesbrough at home. And he's actually just dropped, as you can see on the screen, to 5.5. So if you need maybe a Stanislas replacement after his good next game, then Zaha could be the one. He was on real form before he went, and it's definitely one to keep an eye on. So there's one thing I just need to tag on to the end of this African combinations segment. I'd actually finished recording, and then I checked Twitter quickly, and I've just seen that Senegal have been knocked out, which means Mane is also going to be back for Liverpool. Now, I think he's been a huge miss for them. They haven't done very well since he's been out. Some people are starting to say that they're just getting tired, possibly from the tactics that Klopp's been using. They haven't been rotated very well. They don't have much squad depth. But I think Mane has been a bigger miss than most people consider him to be. Now, right now we might not be looking at Liverpool players, but they have just been knocked out of the FA Cup. So depending on what their opposition does from game week 28, whether they get through to the 6th round, Liverpool might not blank. Now that could be really handy for getting players like Coutinho, Firmino and Mane in our sides when other midfielders might be blanking. So that's definitely worth considering. And we'll have to see how Liverpool go now that Mane's back. So Arsenal might start to become a bit of a headache for us, what with the blanking game week 26 and having a lot of their attackers back from injury. We'll start off with defence. Bellerin made a return last game against Burnley. He came on from the bench, so you'd expect him to start the next league game. Debuchy is also back, but given his injury record and the fact that Bellerin's had that spot nailed down for so long, I don't think he's suddenly going to be usurped from it. And then we've got Mertesacker also back. Now, I think Mustafi and Koscielny are the first choice centre-back partnership for Wenger. I don't see him rotating much. With Gabriel there and Mertesacker back now, there is possible rotation there. So if you are considering one of Koscielny or Mustafi, maybe just keep that in mind. Up front is where it gets really interesting. So both Theo Walcott and Danny Welbeck are back. Theo Walcott's actually only priced at 7.4 million now, which could be a bargain. He's just scored a hat-trick in the FA Cup as well. Danny Welbeck also played really well in that game. I suppose the biggest question is what's going to happen to Giroud and Sanchez. Sanchez guaranteed to play every game, but will he go back up front now and let Walcott come back in, which means Giroud will go out of the team? Or will Giroud stay, Sanchez on the wing, and Walcott will come in on the wing? We just don't know. I own Giroud right now. I'm a little bit worried. I think he's going to start the next game for sure, because Walcott's obviously played in the FA Cup. He's just back from injury. Wenger might want to rest him for the midweek game and then play him next weekend. We'll have to see. So with the blank coming up in game week 26, I think I'm going to give Giroud one more game and then get rid of him. But it'd be really interesting to see how Arsenal line up with all these attackers back now. So it seems as though Sam Allardyce doesn't rate his current left backs. He's already bought Jeffrey Schlupp, who we did think, to be fair, was going to play more as a left wing back or maybe as a left midfielder. But he's actually just done his hamstring in the FA Cup game, and Allardyce has said it doesn't look good at all. So right now, even though he's 4.8 million and was potentially going to be an out-of-position player, he's not an option until he comes back from injury. The other kind of update is Patrick Van Aanholt. Now, he hasn't signed yet, but it really does look like this transfer is going to go through. It's been rumoured for the last couple of weeks. Papers are all reporting it's as good as done. I think this week it's going to go through. Now, Sam Allardyce has already come out and said that he's a big fan of him. He helped Sunderland stay up last year. He's currently priced at 5 million. Does have really good goal threat. Last year he scored 6 goals and got 4 assists. He's already got 3 goals this season. As I said, for Zaha, Crystal Palace do have okay fixtures coming up, so it might be worth a look. And if they play 3-5-2, which they have done in the last couple of games, he could really be a really good option on the left. One that I'm going to look at. I'll wait and see where he plays, and obviously have to wait till the transfer goes through. But definitely keep an eye on him. He could be one for goals from defence. I'd say this season, more than the last couple, we've seen FPL managers switch to 3-5-2, which doesn't tend to be common because most players will play 3-4-3 from the get-go and play like that all season. Now, I've recently switched to 3-5-2 because of the amount of midfielders that I wanted to get in my team, but now I've got rid of Hazard for Ali, and I only see really as Ali, Sanchez and Eriksen as like the top 3 midfielders that you absolutely have to own. I'm starting to look at maybe switching back to 3-4-3. I don't know when that will happen, but the 2 players on the screen could really help with that. Tom Carroll made a debut and got an assist. He's only priced at 4.2 million. I think if you're going to get someone in as a 5th mid that perhaps you don't want to play, but if he comes off the bench he could do well, then he could be your man. Tom Davies is another one who's been doing well recently, getting goals and assists. The problem with him is he's playing in the midfield where Schneiderlin hasn't been playing. Obviously, Everton have just signed him, so it's likely that he'll come back into the team. They've also got Gay coming back as well from the African Cup of Nations at some point. So I say at that point, Tom Davies might lose his place. So the 3-4-3 could be making a comeback. One of these 2 could be in our plans. I think it'll more likely be Tom Carroll, but keep an eye on these 2. If you're playing 3-5-2 for now, that's okay. But you might want to go back to 3-4-3 at some point, especially with players like Lukaku not blanking in game week 26 or 28. He could be a really good option to go alongside your other 2 strikers. So Spurs are probably the only team right now which most of us would be happy to triple up on. There's at least 5 players that would be on most people's watch list. So you've got Rose, Walker, Eriksen, Mane and Harry Kane. But there's quite a lot of injury news this week. So obviously we know that Vertonghen's already out for a little while. It looks like 4 to 6 weeks. But Alderweireld also went off in the last game. Now they've come out and said that that was just a precaution and that he felt his hamstring and obviously he didn't want it to snap and be out for a long time. We'll have to wait for the press conference to see exactly what that's about. And also Danny Rose and Harry Kane are also carrying knocks. They didn't play in the FA Cup today. But again, it does sound like they're going to be back for the midweek game. For Spurs, I'd definitely say try and catch the press conference. Keep an eye on Twitter for all the latest news. Obviously, that's potentially a big miss to Spurs. Rose provides so much width on the left. Obviously, Harry Kane's their main goal scorer. And in defence, if Alderweireld's not there, then I think the clean sheets will start to dry up a little bit. So yeah, keep an eye on that one. It could be big news next week, but hopefully everything will be okay. So West Ham have been busy in the transfer market this week, signing 2 new players. Obviously, we said on last week's show that Font was trying to push a move out of Southampton. He's now pushed that through. He's gone to West Ham. He's priced 5.3 million in FPL. So although he's going to be first choice, you'd imagine, partnering with Reed in defence, I don't think 5.3 million is worth the money. For a defence that doesn't keep clean sheets that often, there's just so many more options for a cheaper price that you could go for. The more interesting one out of the two is Snodgrass. He's priced at 5.7 million in FPL, obviously listed as a midfielder. One of the kind of good points about him at Hull was that he had all set pieces and even had penalties when Hernandez wasn't on the pitch. So that was obviously a great source of points, having all of those. At West Ham, we'll have to wait and see what happens. He's obviously not going to get penalties. I think Noble's on them. He's going to keep them. As terms of free kicks and corners, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, Payet's the main man there, but he's trying to push a move out of the club. It looks like that may go through. It's not been confirmed yet. Even if he does stay, whether he's going to play, we'll have to wait and see. You'd imagine he will. So we'll have to see how Snodgrass fits into the team. But if he can get on free kicks and corners with Andy Carroll to aim at, he could be a really good option at 5.7 million. So I'd definitely keep an eye on him. Cheap midfielder, fill your team to enable heavy hitters elsewhere. Really could be one to keep an eye on. So this is the part of the video where we're going to take a look at my team. These are my Game Week 22 results. So I scored 57 points. Got a Game Week rank of 931k, which isn't great. But it did give me a green arrow. I'm up to 232k now from 251. So hopefully I can keep the momentum going to have a really strong finish. Team was okay. Phil Jones unexpected 2 bonus points in a 1-1 draw. Alonso got 6 points. That's kind of standard. You expect at least that from him every week. But Chris Brandt, the main man again, playing him at home is just so easy. He always does well. He scored about 52 points or 58 points in the last 6 home games, which is unreal. And then other than that, no one else really did anything for me. New boy Morales did nothing. I was looking at between him and Stanislas. Neither of them did anything, so can't be too annoyed at that. He doesn't have a blank. Hopefully he'll keep playing. He was the furthest man forward in the last game, even higher than Lukaku on average, so hopefully that turns into goals and assists soon. Ended up captaining Sanchez, which worked out because he was the only one that did anything for my attack. It was a bit jammy, which is kind of why I'm happy with 57 points, obviously a last minute penalty. Could have been better, but a green arrow, and we'll move on to Game Week 23. So this is how I'm looking for Game Week 23. On paper, I quite like the team. There's some issues that I'm going to start to have as the weeks go forward, but I can start to plan for them now. Obviously, Phil Jones at the back looks good for this week with Hull at home, but that could change going forward. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, could be rotated. In midfield, I actually let slip earlier in the video. I've actually made my transfer already, so Hazard's gone, Ali's in. I do think I might regret getting Hazard out. I don't think I'm going to regret getting Ali in, but I could have got him in for Mkhitaryan. It's really the whole game that made me keep him. So I might want Hazard back. Obviously, he's going to drop in price. He already has, so I can get him back for a reduced price. But I think he can still do damage. He was still getting points, albeit maybe not enough to cover a 10.4 million price tag. He was doing okay, and Chelsea do have some good fixtures coming up after Arsenal and Liverpool. So one to keep an eye on. And then Giroud up front, he could be an issue soon with all the attackers that Arsenal have got. I think he's going to be good for Watford at home, but I'm going to look to get rid after that. Lukaku's the one I've got my eye on because he's not going to blank. He's 9.5 million. And Everton have some really good fixtures. So I think if I get someone in, it'll be Lukaku. I've got 3.1 million in the bank, so I've got options. And then Peter Crouch on the bench. He's obviously my bench fodder, but I might need to play him with the blanks coming up. But Berahino, who I haven't mentioned in the video, is obviously just signed for Stoke. So he's probably going to be first choice. Just depends whether Crouch keeps his place and maybe they play little man, big man up front maybe. We'll have to wait and see, but that's one that I've got my eye on because Crouch could become an issue soon. And then captain, it's close between Sanchez and Ibra again. In the last couple of weeks, I've made the right choice by going for Sanchez. He's a midfielder, so obviously he gets an extra point for a clean sheet, extra point for every goal, which is kind of why I've chosen him and why I'm going to choose him again. Marco Silva potentially has Hull playing more defensively or better at the back, so we'll have to see if Man United can break through. I've made a video on Man United midfielders this week. We're still creating chances, we're just not converting them. So Ibra could do well, but I think I'm going to stick with the main man at the moment, who's Sanchez. And hopefully Game Week 23 goes well for you and for me. If you've played FPL for a good few seasons now, one of the phrases you might have heard is Theo Walcott is FPL gold, and this season really has been no different. He's already got 8 goals and 3 assists this year in just 16 matches, and is priced at currently 7.4 million. Now that's been dropping over the last kind of 5 weeks because he's been out injured, but as I said earlier in the video, he's now back and played in the FA Cup today. Originally my game changer was going to be Aaron Ramsey, and I do think he could still do well if he plays in the double pivot. He's actually only second to Alexis Sanchez when it comes to shots over the last 3 game weeks, so he's getting those attempts in and could be a really good player. But Theo Walcott, I just cannot resist. He's only owned by 4.3% of players. Obviously, after scoring a hat-trick and doing so well this year, Wenger's put a lot of faith in him, and he has delivered. If you're looking to get out those rankings, you get Walcott in, he does well. He's really going to push you up with such low ownership. Obviously, like I said in the video earlier, there's obviously a problem. He might not start the next game. We're going to have to wait and see how Giroud does and whether he stays in the team. But given that Walcott hasn't missed any games this year, apart from through injury, I really think he'll get back in the team sooner rather than later, and he could be a really good game changer for us. So that's it for today's video. Make sure to leave a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts and transfers are for Game Week 23 and whether I've missed any big news that you think other members of the FPL community might want to check out. Also, let me know if there's any videos you'd like to see. So I'm currently trying to do 2 streams a week and 2 videos. I think I'll probably keep up with the looking ahead ones because I enjoy doing them. If there's any changes you want to see made to them, then let me know. I'm not always going to do like a comparison video like I did Mkhitaryan and Pogba this week. The week before I did a midfielder game changes video. So there's kind of room for a second video every week, either a new series or just maybe even a one-off. Just let me know below. As always, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, it'd really be appreciated, and subscribe so you know when the next video is out. It'll also let you know when I'm going live for live streams that I'm doing. Next one of them will be tomorrow, which is Sunday the 29th of January. That'll be at 9 PM UK time, so make sure to subscribe and tune in for that. But apart from that, keep chatting FPL and I'll catch you soon.